Hey everybody, how y'all doing today? It's been a pretty good week, and my Friday morning has gone very well so far. It's much smoother than yesterday. So yeah, I think I'm ready to get into some programming. Definitely ready for the weekend too, but I think I can make it one more day. But yeah, so let's see. Yesterday I updated some of the input, and I think I have it set up all the way to. Okay, so there's an exception. Yeah, I started working on choosing an ability, but we have some exception, but I don't actually print out what it is. So I have a feeling it has to do with checking for what abilities are usable. Let's rearrange some of these icons. There we go. Okay, so I think I'll go back to the play flow manager, and I'll just need to listen for an error. I'm gonna put this like these tickables are executed in the order that you add them. So I want to put this first, so that way if there's any error, then I'll be able to, oops, then I'll update the state of right away, and so any other of these events will pretty much be ignored. What did I call the exception? Play exception event. Okay, yeah, so I have to make a distinction between like an error that happens on the local, like on the local machine, or one that happens on a network machine that we're sent a message. So that's why I'm calling that local error. Okay, so I'll just put it right here, I guess. So if there's an error, first I'm gonna want to print it out. I guess, well, for now we don't really care what state we're in, but we might later. So I'm trying to decide if I want to go ahead and add a switch statement now or not. Okay, I'll just keep it simple. So for now, if there's ever an error, we'll advance the match to an error phase and advance turn to none, and then I'll print out the error. I guess I should do log exception. Okay, now that should give us a bit more information about what's going on. Okay, so now it says ability usable script exception. So there's a runtime exception at line 3. It attempts to index a nil value. Thanks for the host again, Wonderful. I really appreciate it. How are you doing today? Still trying to learn some Erlang, was it? Okay, let me see. Oh yeah, so I want to look at the script and see what that error is. Line 3. Okay, because it's trying to do pathfinding, but I haven't updated pathfinding yet. That may be on hold for a bit. Oh, okay. Well, I hope you're able to figure it out whenever you're able to make time for it. Doing some OBS and Elm cleanup. Oh, okay, well, that's probably a good idea. Yeah, I should update my OBS setup pretty soon. Okay, so yeah, this pathfinding isn't implemented right now. So I could either... Well, I guess now is as good a time as any to update it. So let me see. Okay, yeah, so right now all I do is just like deposit functions in these variables, and then the Lua pretty much directly calls them. Or it doesn't directly call them because I just pass it through here, but I don't really like this pattern anymore, so I think I want to try to update it or get rid of this. I guess I shouldn't just delete all this outright in case I need to see how I did it. Okay, now I'll just return null so I can get rid of these errors. Okay, so let's look through. The actual pathfinding or whatever script actually implements those functions. And I'm just gonna let it recompile so it can show me where those errors are now. Oh, okay, I must have already commented them out. Okay, so this is the class that actually does the pathfinding. I guess this is fine. I kind of want to pull all this data out into a separate data class and then just, because I'm kind of liking separating data and logic. I might do something like that. Tends to make everything a little simpler. Yeah, this is just a pretty standard A star function, or A star algorithm. Okay, so let's see. Class, pathfinding, job. Basically, I'll just want to put all this stuff in here. I guess the question is, does that actually help me any? Let's see. Okay, so this is the class that hooks up with the rest of the game. Maybe I'll start here. So I don't need that anymore. I can use this to grab information about Lua calls instead of the old way. Okay, and then this has a dictionary of pathfinders based on index. I might want to change that. Okay, and then this, yeah, it's like a function group. Okay, so that is basically, yeah, a collection of Lua functions just in a wrapper. I think that is good. Don't need that. Okay, and this is like to find a Pathfinder ID. It's just I don't really like storing them in this dictionary like that. So I wonder, I have this system in the Lua open calls. Where's it? This one. where you can like store extra information in this extra data. So I might actually just store the entire pathfinding thing in there. So that way the Pathfinder would be actually stored with the rest of the data for a Lua call, and I wouldn't have to keep it separately. Trying to remember, where do I use this already? Oh, get targets, okay. I guess I'd still need to keep a list of like Pathfinders that are still working. Okay. I think I'll move this whole thing into the Lua. The Lua namespace. So I'll just go ahead and update this while I'm here. Oh yeah, I had to write my own priority queue because for some reason this version of C# doesn't have one. It's kind of a pain. I think actually Unity has updated, so maybe I can see about using a built-in priority queue now. But I don't know, this one works fine. Okay, so anyway, so I could just store this entire class, but that seems a bit messy to me. Like store this entire object in the script, or with the Lua script like I was talking about before. But I mean, I might as well just store this information and then, because like the Lua script doesn't need to know all this, does it? Let me see. How does it reconstruct? Okay, so I do actually use this. Oh yeah, but probably... I'm trying to see like how it reconstructs a path just so I can get a handle on it. Okay, I think this is the class that does all that magic. Okay, pathfinding results. Yeah, so it gets a pathfinder and then it gets end nodes. Okay, so it actually just uses these Q nodes to do it. Okay, so what is this used for? Okay. Problem is right now, since everything's kind of in an error state, it's hard to tell. All right, well, why don't I kind of update this and then I can see what I want to move out into something else. Okay. So this will be a flow logic container, which just means that it's set up to work with the event system. I need to send that up to the base constructor. Okay, and then I also need the game data. I think that's, oh yeah, and the open calls. That's all information from the outside game that I think I need to have. Well, actually, I'm probably gonna need to get the Lua system. Okay, so this clears when we exit the turn phase, but I don't want to do that because this class should be disconnected as much as possible from the play phase, because it can also run during map generation, for example. So I'll need to, well, I guess now if I hook up these pathfinders with the Lua script that actually called it, then they'll be disposed automatically when the Lua script is finished working, so that's not really a problem. Don't need that anymore. Okay, let's do it this way. Oh, I was gonna try to just override this tech function so I didn't have to write out protected, but that works. And then, okay, so this is basically updating any working pathfinders. Oh, yeah, this should be public. Okay, so, and since I might remove a pathfinder from the list if it's done, I'm going to loop through this backwards so I don't accidentally skip any. Okay, so I called it finder, so I'll just do that. If complete is false, then I'll want to update it. But I actually will want to do something if it is complete too, so. Actually, okay, so if it's in the list, then we know it's not complete. So I should actually do the loop first and then check if it's complete. And if it is complete, I can remove it. And I don't really have to fire any events here because when the Lua scripts update again, they check to see if this is complete, so I don't have to explicitly tell it. Working, remove at. Okay, so then we'll have, if there's an exception. Okay, so I can't use this anymore. I'll have to like make a new pathfinding exception. But I'll just leave that for now. Yeah, same with this actually. Why don't I just go ahead and make a pathfinding exception class. Or do I want to use an exception, or should I just like signal that pathfinding had an error and then trying to figure out how I want to handle this. Because yeah, the pathfinding should signal that it has an error, and then it should like exit the Lua script. So really... Okay, so I have these errors, so I guess I should just have a bunch of pathfinding errors here. So pathfinding, runtime, and then whatever else. Then, okay, so now I need to somehow connect that up with the open call system. Well, I guess whenever the call script comes by, if it is running, then we would check to see if it has an error. And if it has an error, then I would just set it to this state and exit. Okay, so if call dot error type not equal none, then some error has been set by request spell billing system. So okay, so we need to just set state as an error and return. Oh, I shouldn't return. Oh yeah, I can. That's safe. Because I was gonna say then this wouldn't be set back to -1, but only set right there, so it's no issue. I don't even have to do this because let me see. I think I can I just set the error or the state to error here? Let me see. So current call. Actually, I have a separate function for this. Set error. Okay, I was gonna do like a params string because this collects any extra arguments into a string array. But I think that will actually conflict with the actual constructor for the exception because it also uses this param string, so this is kind of annoying. Well, I wonder if you... Okay, let's see if C# is smart enough to do this. Oh wait, okay. That's not even how this works actually. I don't actually throw an error, I just set a message. Okay, so to get the currently running open call, I can just use this running index. Although... Okay. Yeah, when this pathfinding is running, this running index would be -1. So what I actually need to do is store this index somehow within the pathfinder itself, which is not really that big of a deal, I guess. Okay, well no, I can't store an index because the index will change, so I need to actually store the open call itself in here. Okay, so that's starting to get to some extra information. Okay, and this should be public because other namespaces can get a hold of this. Okay, so now the current call is just whatever's stored in this data. Okay, so state is now set to error. And then the error type is whatever we passed. I guess I should also make sure that there's not already some error. So if current call. Oh, I haven't gotten the call yet. Okay, there we go. So if current call state is running, then we want to set this. If it's not running, then something weird has happened or another error has already been set. I don't really want to overwrite that. Okay, so now I guess these pathfinders should have a reference to the pathfinding data. I'll just go ahead and kind of messily put that in here. Okay, so now I need to put the try catch within the for loop because I need to have a reference to this. Which doesn't really make much difference in terms of the game logic or optimization, but okay, so this would be pathfinding runtime exception, and for the actual message I'll just pass whatever we got from the Lua compiler. Okay, there we go. Now is request ready? Okay, so how's this stored? Okay, so we have an index. I really wanted to not refer to pathfinding with an index. It'd be better if I could get like the actual open call object and then I could grab whatever data was stored in here. I don't think that's too difficult to do. So basically what I would do is if okay, so how I want to do this is I'm going to need to refactor a bunch of this code a little bit because I can get like the pathfinding data out of this open call. Okay, and if data is null, then that means that nothing was actually... There was no pathfinding with this call. Oh, but another thing is that a script can have multiple pathfinders attached, so I need to deal with that as well. Okay, well that's not that big of a deal, but I guess that's what the index would refer to as the ordering of the pathfinding data on this list, because this extra data list won't change, only things will be added to it. So, I guess I could just extend this. So if count is equal to index, then we found the one we want. Otherwise, we'll want to keep looping, but we'd increment count. Okay, but what happens? Okay, it just adds an extra thing. I don't know if that's a good idea. Well, I guess it doesn't really matter. Okay, so I guess while count is less... Okay, let's not do this actually. This is about the same, but I like using for loops better. While count is less than index, we'll need to keep on adding new data, but then we'll return the last one. I could just use null actually, because I've said this is a class. Okay, is this correct? So let's see, if there's 0 on here, but we want the second value, which would be index number 1, then... Okay. So I think we have to actually loop until count is less than or equal index, because if index is 1, then we actually want 2 of this object on here. Gosh, sorry if you can hear that. I don't know what something's going on outside out my window. Let me see. Okay, I don't know if this is gonna actually help anything, or if it's just gonna lead to bugs. Okay, well I guess the good thing is that now I don't have to like check if it's null and add it if it doesn't exist already. Okay, well, let's just try it out. Hopefully it won't lead to anything ugly. Again, okay, so if there's nothing, let's just say this is pathfinding data. So if there's no pathfinding data in the list, but I say our set index equal to 1, which means I want the second instance of it, then when this comes through, count will still be 0. So count is 0, then it creates the first instance, and then increments count. So now count is 1, which is the same as index, so it would go one more time. Yeah, so I think that's okay. Okay, so actually what I want is whatever index is set in this request. Okay, so now the data will never be null, actually. So what I want to do is make this Pathfinder basically just take the data as a argument, and then I can ask it if this data is complete instead of the data all being stored within this pathfinding class. So let me see. So I don't have to do that. I would just return. I guess I'll have a reference to just a single pathfinder. Headphones are going out. I guess it doesn't really matter much for the stream, but okay, I'll just live with it for now. Okay, so anyway, I'll just have one single pathfinder. And so what will actually happen, I guess I'll change this to data. Okay, and then this should just be the Pathfinder object. So basically it will just work on this data instead of holding the data itself. I think this works better because that way I don't have to try and keep track of all the data in this manager itself. It's tied directly into the Lua call. So yeah, just return finder is complete. This is just checking to see if it's a valid pathfinding node type. Right now we only support numbers and board positions. Might want to extend that later, but I'll wait. Okay, and then this is the class that actually starts pathfinding, but I'm going to want to move all this up to the actual pathfinding class that Lua calls. I think so. I guess we can go ahead and do that. Well, I don't want to do this part in Lua, so it'll probably be a mix between them. I don't want that. Okay, so for this find all paths, for example, I basically want to move this into here. So I guess this validate, do I want to put it actually into the pathfinding manager, or do I want to store it in this Lua class? Okay, so this is different. This is actually that's the old system. So what I want to do is actually get the open call, which is pretty easy to do. And we can actually use this because this is called directly while or from a Lua script, so we know that some call is active. Alright. Yeah, I should actually check. So if running index is less than 0, then we want to throw this because we're not during a pathfinding call or a pathfinding enabled call. Also, yeah, I also need to check that pathfinding is actually enabled on this call too. Okay, so I think this stuff should be in the other class because it's directly related to Lua. Private void check in state. Okay, I don't know why I did that. That indentation. Yeah, so open calls. Okay, so in Lua, or in any class that Lua has a handle on, I want to be sure to leave this generic constructor, but not actually support it. But you have to do this so that you can mark it as hidden from Lua, so that Lua can't create a new instance of this class. But the class will actually use, or the constructor will actually use, will be this other one that takes some arguments. And oh, I'm missing the S there. And then we'll want to have a reference to the Pathfinder manager. Okay, so first I want to check if we're in a valid script, and then I can also, oh yeah, so that's another class I need, something called the script state, which will let me know if pathfinding has been enabled on the specific script. Because for some things, like, I don't know, if we want a script to run very quickly, then we won't want to enable pathfinding because pathfinding takes multiple frames. Okay, so is... Okay, I actually don't have a little thing for that. Okay, I actually don't have an option that disables pathfinding. Well, I might as well add one. Okay, so anyway, if is pathfinding disabled, then we'll want to throw new script. Runtime exception. Pathfinding is not enabled for the script. I can just actually throw the same thing here. Actually, I think this is kind of redundant because pathfinding disabled already checks to see if there's a running index, so I don't have to do that. First, I'll check in state. Okay, and what else is in the validate arguments? Get rid of all that for now. Okay, so it's going to check to see if a function group actually exists. Let's actually, okay, so let's change this to check function, or let's see. Does function group exist? Then I'll make another. I can actually just call this is valid node type. Okay, so anyway, validate args common. Okay, so it actually gets a reference to the functions here. Oh, because it's gonna set up. Okay, well I won't actually do that here. Guess I could just call check and state in this. Okay, so we'll just rename this validate common. Okay, what's it complaining about? Oh, yeah. Okay, so if Pathfinder does function group exist? Okay, I don't actually need to have the second argument, so I'll go delete that later. So if this doesn't exist, we'll want to throw an error. What's it complaining about now? Oh, it's returning a function group. Actually, yeah, I just want to return a Boolean. But I guess I'll need to have a separate get function group. Let me see. Okay, so all I have to do here is just do function groups contains the tag. Function group name to upper invariant. Oh, we also should check that the function group name isn't null because that can happen. Okay, so if string is null or empty, or the group doesn't exist. Okay, and then I also need to check if Pathfinder what I'm looking for is valid node type, but since it's static, it wasn't showing up. I guess it could be static, but I don't know, not really any need to be. Okay, so that means if this first argument or the start argument is not a valid node type, then we'd want to throw some exception for that. And I can get rid of that. Okay, so here I don't really need to throw an error if something doesn't exist. Okay, this is actually a bit more complicated than I thought because it like generates stuff on the fly. It's not pre-generated. Okay, so actually I should just return null here. Okay, so this is kind of a roundabout way to do it, but it works. Okay, so I don't really need the function group here. I'd pass that up to the Pathfinder when I actually want to start a search. So what else is this checking? Okay, so it's checking the terminate type. I think this is all fine. Okay, so let's make this eternal void. And I'm gonna need to change this. So I should actually return like a pathfinding data object. Okay, so it actually wants a request as well. Let's just return a structure with both of those objects. So I guess this will just be binding initialization. I could also just in this object attach the open or attach the pathfinding data myself. Let's see, actually, let's just return void and we'll just use two out arguments. I guess this is open call request, and then instead of returning the pathfinder, we'd actually return pathfinding data. I guess this is the point when I need to insert basically all the data here into that pathfinding data class. It's, I wonder. I'm not sure if I can get rid of any of this stuff. I think number of iterations I might. Oh no, because this is total iterations between frames, so that does need to stay. Yeah, so this data is kind of like the parameters, and then this is the state. So I guess they kind of both need to stay there. I don't actually, some of this stuff I think is just like temporary lists. I think only the queue and visited is a state variable, but I'll check. Well, I guess I should find out. On the do loop, queue and the visited. I'm pretty sure, like from how I remember, I wrote the A star, and the neighbors is actually generated by this get neighbors class or function, so I don't need to store it in the state. Okay, so what was it? Neighbors, simple neighbors. What about, is this even used anymore? Oh, I see. It's, okay, so that is a state variable because that's the ending nodes of the search. Okay, so just these two are not. Okay, well that makes that a little simpler. Okay, and so I'll just make a constructor that will initialize these objects. Do I do anything special? No, I just create them right there. Yeah, right now the Q nodes themselves contain the get hash code. There's another way I could do it, but I don't think it makes much difference. Anyway, so here, is new, and let's leave the request for now. Oh, I see what's going on here. I think I renamed this to like a yield request. Oh yeah, okay. And then this is a yield request result. I renamed some of these and I couldn't remember. Okay. Okay, so tag and result. Yeah, okay. So the tag, yeah, the difference is the tag is what you pass back into the system. So it knows what request you want to wait for, and the result is the actual, yeah, it's the object that contains the pathfinding results from a yield. Okay, so, okay, if we go ahead and insert this right now, I guess I can just have a new value that would just return the pathfinding manager and then the finder data. Oh, if I can spell it right. Oh, I was missing quite a few letters there actually. This is a data. That's really all I'll need, but now a lot of this stuff, of course, is needs to be updated. Let's rename this. Okay, I was trying to remember why do I pass this type in, but that's because it can either be search all or search for a specific target. Okay, so let's index. Okay, so let's, now I need to know the index of this pathfinding data on the object. Okay, I knew that system was going to be a bit annoying. What am I looking for? Open calls, okay. So the reason I have this list of just a bunch of objects is so that I wouldn't have to keep on adding more stuff whenever I added a new system. But I think it's gonna get to the point where, oh hey Ice Boy, finally Twitch is working. Oh yeah, I thought I saw you in OBS, but didn't want to call you out in case you were busy. But yeah, thanks for coming by. Yeah, I see your little dancing character right there. But yeah, this because right now I have pathfinding and then get targets data is gonna need to go in here, and also stat requests. So I thought it might be nice if I just had one list for all that extra data. But for pathfinding, since you can have multiples on there, I feel like I'm going to get into problems. Well, okay, well there's a way I could combine them all on this one list, but I just have a feeling, a bad feeling about doing that. I guess what I could do is have this get extra. I could just have like a pathfinding calls object. Yeah, that might be better. That might be the best of both worlds. Okay, so let me explain what I mean. I guess I can get rid of all of this. Oops. Press the wrong hotkey there. For some reason you couldn't connect to the chat. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's happened to me before. Yeah, one time it happened to me while I was streaming, so I couldn't see my own chat. And I felt bad because I think people might have tried to talk to me, but I didn't see anything. That's why I always try to test it before I go live nowadays. Okay, so anyway, in the pathfinding data, so I won't store this directly in that extra data. I'll have instead all pathfinding requests, and then this will just have a list of pathfinding data. Okay, so now I need to go and change some of this again. Okay, that's supposed to be like that. So here, yeah, we want to get extra all pathfinding requests. Okay, so yeah, I think this is going to be much better. So anyway, so the index would be, I guess I can go ahead. Okay, so now I'm going to actually need that pathfinding, or the open call. I can actually, okay, I actually don't need it because I can get it myself. So open call. Okay, so all pathfinding requests. No, just, oh, why is it? Oh, right, that's not the list. Okay, so now I add that onto there, and so the ID for this specific request will be the length of the request list, and then we have to subtract it by 1 because we just added 1 to it up here. Okay, and then call, request, add. Oh yeah, and so I do need to add. I think I can just make these lowercase. Do I need to actually store this data? Oh, it's all private, that's the problem. Okay, and I think the issue here, you're thinking about trying to finish a game in RPG Maker and then work on a game Maker Studio for the summer. Yeah, I think you should. Ice Boy, that'd be really cool. And no better time than the summer, that's for sure. I don't know. I don't really need to store those there. I guess I did in case I wanted to change anything, but... Okay, and yeah, I need to store the open call and the data. The data.functions is get function group. And okay, so I don't need to do that stuff, and everything else I think is set later. So the end type, all this depends on if it's either search all or search for a specific target. Okay, so then I just return. Oh, I don't have to do that actually. I did out arguments, that works. Okay, so internal void setup search all. Well, the Lua doesn't care about this, it just wants a yield request tag. And actually that might be it. Oh, also in the running list I should add this open call. Oh, I called it working. That's, well, whatever, it's fine. Data, okay, there we go. Okay, yeah, so the only thing we need to return here is the yield request tag. Okay, and so this would be, first we need the function group name, start, what else do I need to pass through?